Hey everyone, I'm Blankson, Chief Marketing and Communications Officer for the NAACP. As part of the 53rd NAACP Image Awards week of activities, we have invited actors, directors, content creators from across the Africa diaspora for conversations about the global nature of the industry. In part 2 of our conversation, our inspiring panel will discuss the diversity of stories and experiences reflected on various content platforms and the moments that demand our attention. As we continue the celebration of our culture, our stories, our excellence. I'm so excited to introduce our moderator for today, Koshie Mills. Koshie is a Hollywood powerhouse, media mogul, and global entrepreneur. She has 3 decades of experience in the entertainment industry, starting with cultivating and managing the careers of her 3 successful sons, who are actors and young moguls within the entertainment industry. Kwame Boateng, a music entertainment executive, actor Kofi Serbo, and actor Kwesi Boateng. An African Renaissance woman at the core, Mills is a Ghanaian ambassador for film, arts, and culture who has made elevating African culture a pillar of her career. She created the game-changing, groundbreaking The Diaspora Dialogues talk show, which debuted in 2018 as the highest watched program in its time slot on the Afrika channel. Now, her media company, Heirs of Afrika, continues the legacy of curating stories by producing film, TV, digital content, and special events for Black people and others to see each other not as a monolith, but as a vast global experience. Welcome, my friend, Koshie Mills.
Ava, thank you so much for having me. NAACP Image Awards has been a pillar in our community, and we're so grateful to be having this conversation, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it. Thank you once again, NAACP, for pioneering a space for us to share our stories, our culture, and our excellence. I am once again humbled to be a part of this discussion, and I would like to introduce you to my fellow creatives who are here today to make this conversation something that we have taken so much time to really cultivate, and hopefully we can give some nuggets to our fellow folks out there in the diaspora in here. Well, without further much ado, I would like to introduce our esteemed panelists, starting with Queen Tope Oshin. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did a good job.
Okay, an award winning filmmaker who has directed several thousands of hours of television and film content. These consist of over 750 episodes of some of Africa's biggest and most successful drama series, like MTV Sugar, Tinsel, Castle, and all these other wonderful shows. Her most prominent directing credits include films like New Money, In Line, We Don't Live Here Anymore, and the groundbreaking December 2018 theatrical release Up North. CEO and founder of Sunbow Productions, her latest film, currently in post production, Here Love Lies, has gone on to become the first African film to be awarded the prestigious Refame stamp, an initiative by the Sundance Lab. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Tope Oshin. Our next
Thank you.
panelist, look, fake clapping, sorry. All right, but yes, really clapping, celebrating you, Queen. Our next panelist is no stranger to us. Jimmy Jean Louis is a Haitian born actor who grew up in the slums of Pétionville until age 12. Jimmy has now become a Hollywood celebrity and a global cultural ambassador to Haiti. Early in his career, Jimmy worked as a dancer and a model in France, Spain, Italy, South Africa, and England. He moved to Los Angeles in 1998 to pursue acting. His acting credits include Tears of the Sun, Fat Girls, and multiple hit television shows like Heroes, Arrow, CBS extant with Oscar winner Halle Berry, and more recently, he was a part of the cast of Joy with Jennifer Lawrence and a regular on the TV show Claws for TNT. Jimmy also co founded the Los Angeles based production company, Jet Media Productions, in 2008 to tell our stories. Jimmy speaks 5 languages, and his international appeal is undeniable. Welcome, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Also joining us today is Chukwudi Iwuji. Yes, I got it.
Nailed
An
it.
extraordinary actor, both on screen and on stage. Chukwudi Iwuji continues to captivate audiences with his versatility and establishes himself as one to watch. Iwuji currently stars opposite John Cena in James Gunn's spin-off series Peacemaker for HBO Max in DC. He has also made his debut in Marvel Universe, starring in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. The next installment in the blockbuster franchise will be coming to us soon. Previously, he starred in Netflix Shine Your Eyes, Emmy nominated series The Underground Railroad, When They See Us, Designated Survivor, and more. An accomplished theater veteran, Iwuji's performance in Low Road, directed by Michael Greif, earned him an Obie Award as well as a 2018 Lucille Lartell and Drama League nominations. Thank you, Chukwudi, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Last but not least, we have Mamoudou Ache. Mamoudou Ache is a graduate of William Esper Studios and the Yale School of Drama. An Emmy Award nominated actor, he was nominated for a 2020 Emmy Award for Outstanding Actor in a short form comedy or drama series for his role in Oh Jerome No on FX, which he also executive produced. Most recently, Ache starred opposite Felicia Rashad in Blumhouse Black Box by Amazon Prime. He recently wrapped production in London on Jurassic World Dominion, which will be released by Universal Pictures on June 10th, 2022. On television, Mamoudou can currently be seen starring in the Netflix drama archive 81 and is also well known for starring as Grandmaster Flash in Baz Luhrmann's The Get Down on Netflix. Other film credits include starring in Prentice Penny's Uncorked, The Frontrunner, Unicorn Store, Patty Cakes, The Circle, and many more. Mamoudou made his stage debut in Generations at Soho Repertory Theatre. He also starred opposite Diane Lane and Tony Shabub in The Mystery of the Love and Sex at Lincoln Center Theatre, for which he received critical praise. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my wonderful esteemed panelists for our conversation. Okay, this is really cool because I get to meet all these wonderful diasporian, glorious creatives. It's not very often that we get together, so this opportunity made available to us and this space by NAACP is so important. I'm going to jump right in and start asking some great conversation questions. And I want us to just feel free, be relaxed, and just share. Because at the end of the day, I feel like it's in sharing that we will be able to cultivate things that we can do to come together and as a collective enhance our community. So the first question that I have, and I think I'm going to go to the queen, Tope, I would love for you to share with me, right? I'm putting you on the spot. How far do you think we have come in 2022 as a global force, and how much further do you think we need to go to feel Black people are being fully represented in the entertainment industry?
Well, fully represented. That's a big that's a big one to say. I'd like to believe that we've made a lot of progress, especially in recent years. There's a long way to go, yes, but in the past 3 to 5 years, I think we've made really great taking really great steps. We have a lot more representation, we have a lot more awareness, we have a lot more inclusion. Across Africa, we are prouder, of how much more Black presence we're seeing on screen. I mean, we consume a lot of American content alongside our own content, which we make, but at the same time, we are finding that the Black voice is louder and prouder and more evident. I mean, we are having our own Black superheroes, which was a really big thing. The Black Panther premieres and screenings were highly celebrated in Nigeria. It ran in the cinemas forever. It was like creating a whole new Black experience for us, even though we're Black and in Africa. It
And
was
in
like an
Africa.
event. Yeah, in Africa, that was the strangest thing. Like, people were actually dressing up to go to the cinemas to see Black Panther. So it was
Really?
sort of like yeah, yeah. Even in Nigeria, that was something to see. So it made us all so proud, so proud. Even though this was a fictitious world, and okay, this is all fantasy, but it made us feel seen, like the Black man across the world, even in Hollywood, we are seen, we're being represented. We have Black superheroes, we have all of that. So for me, I feel like there's a great improvement and it's getting better, and we can only look at what we've done in the past few years before now and keep building on that. But yes, there is an improvement, and it's touching us in Africa deeply.
That's really wonderful to hear because I'm surprised you said people in Africa were dressing in African clothes to go see Black
Yep.
Panther. We, we were doing that here in America. So for it, you actually are in Africa and doing that. Do you feel like it's a little bit like, I don't know, maybe this question is for you, Jimmy Jean, because you always are in Africa. Do you think it's a little bit over assimilation, or do you think it's just a form of connection?
Uh, well, I think there are many ways to read the whole Black Panther storyline. Um, I guess first look, yes, it's great because we do have a black superhero, and little kids, black kids from around the world can identify with superhero, with being black, and even white kids can actually finally say, "Oh yeah, we do have black people that could potentially be superheroes." So all those first images are great. Now
Mm,
when it comes to content and who's really benefiting from all that, at the end of the day, it's still not us. So for me, that's
yeah.
still problematic.
Mm,
And we still have to continue trying to collaborate with each other, just so we can continue to give ourselves some strength. I believe there is huge progression. I mean, I've been going back
Yeah.
to Africa ever since I did Fat Girls, which was back in 2005, and
mhm.
there was no connection whatsoever between Africa and Hollywood, between Nigeria and Hollywood. And now we can have this kind of conversation. That means both sides are we're willing to hear from each other. We're willing to accept that we might be connected deeply. And I think
Yes.
once that connection is fully accepted, there is a lot that we can do. Right now, we're still in presentation mode, trying to check
Mhm.
each other out. And I
Yeah.
think I really encourage that we continue to do that, just so we really do end up working with each other. Because we cannot forget that Africa has 1.4 billion people who have access to a phone. That's
That's a
power.
really great number. That's a
Yeah,
number
no,
that
that's
you have
power.
brought up. Yes, it's power. How do we feel that the giants like streaming companies like Netflix and Amazon are helping us in terms of distribution and getting us our stories globally seen?
To be honest, that remains to be seen. I think. As there's more visibility, and different experiences shared on screen. Um, there's going to be more people getting opportunities, such as myself. And oftentimes I think about, just as an actor, I think about some of the opportunities that I have, some of my friends have, that just weren't available, even like had we graduated 10 years prior. Um,
Mm.
and I think about some of the actors that were not even considered for the parts that I'm currently, being offered. And it's heartbreaking because it's there's been a dearth of experience shared, the types of stories that we're telling now. So I think there's a beginning, a solid beginning of opportunity. But yes, I would have to agree with you that there are times where sometimes it feels more presentational or like not as fulfilling as one would hope or one would
Mm.
expect, and what is deserved. So I feel like people like I was fortunate to work with Prentice Penny. You're like, I'm going to make this movie not about trauma, not about anything else, just about a black family and a young man with a dream. And that's the types of stories that I'm like, these are the types of stories that are um, different types of experience that sometimes are just simple life. So yeah, there's a beginning, but there's a lot more work to be done.
Thank you for saying that. It's true. I think I want to play devil's advocate and say it's good, right? We're now getting seen across board. We're global because anything we do continentally translates once we have these streaming platforms and the opportunity for everyone else to see us. But Chukwudi, like I wanted to say to you, how do you think we individually can contribute to the future of those many stories that Mamoudou mentioned that still need to be told, you know, outside of trauma?
Yeah, I think first of all, Hollywood making inroads to the African narrative is not new. It's been there for ages. It's been the nature of how those inroads have been made that has sort of been an issue. I think that like everything coming from the West to Africa, you can go back to 1600s, you can go back to the 60s. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. And of course, it's going to happen. There's between 150, 160, or 70 million people in Nigeria alone, where I'm from. There is a big market there. So
Yeah.
the point isn't about whether it's going to happen or not. The point is, what are we doing to control that narrative? I'll give an example. My family, we have a production company called Tudor House. So our main remit is not only are we going to tell stories based in about Nigerian stories, but we're going to make sure a lot of these stories have a European sense. That's my life. I grew up in Europe, I
Mm.
grew up in London, and I grew up in Nigeria. It doesn't have to be just about this stories, like what Mamoudou was saying, the stories you tell. Secondly, it's not just about coming in there and filming in Nigeria, it's about making sure that we use local talent and develop
Yes.
local talent.
Yep.
So
Yes.
cinematographers, yeah, we might get a guy from New York, but he's going to train up his second cameraman and third camera, B and C camera, are going to be
Yes.
Nigerian and trained up. It's about one of the projects we have that's very close to being greenlit is called Yellow, and Burna Boy wants to do the music for us. So you have
Yes.
a figure like Burna Boy in a Nigerian thing that's a film noir detective thing, a very Western concept, detective film noir, but set in Lagos and London. We have to be very clever about how we accept this inevitable arrival that's happening, and we can stop it from being exploitation and actually turn it into opportunity. And that's kind of our responsibility
Let's.
in how we approach these things. So I think it's about, I mean, this panel, God, the talent that's on this panel. And we ask ourselves, Nollywood ain't new. Nollywood's the most, I mean, you watch Nollywood on every flight from Virgin Atlantic to the Emirates, where Nollywood is everywhere. But what can we do with Nollywood?
Yeah.
That amount of
Yeah.
talent and that amount of a workforce and that amount of money. How do we make Nollywood start competing with Tinseltown? Because we
I
can't. I mean,
I
I
have
mean, we're
I have
not,
a feeling.
you know. So that's my feeling on it. It's coming, and we've got to take advantage of it, and we take ownership of it, and we take
Yes.
development. It's the
Yes.
classic problem with third world countries. We talk about third world country. There's always money there. The
Yeah.
power is how much of it we choose to share, and that's
Yeah.
that's what our narrative has to be, you know?
I love that you say, how much do we choose to share? And that brings me
Hmm.
to my next question. And I think I'll have Tope and Jimmy tag team on this. Number one, we have our ideals of how we think we should share and how we should work together collaboratively throughout the diaspora, right? So, but how are some of the ways we can work together? I have a theory that trust is a major issue for us because we've been separated for so long. And like Jimmy said, when he went out to do Fat Girls in 2005, we weren't even seeing each other as one. I think the conversation has moved forward, especially with, obviously Heirs of Africa and the Diaspora Dialogues is one of the things that we definitely, my company really wants to make sure that we bridge the gap and see each other. So I want to know if it's working. And I want to know, if so, how do we move it forward and collaborate more? Because there's this idea of it, but what's the real steps? Can you share a little bit about that?
So there's something that Chukwudi said, which resonated a lot with me, and I'm just going to speak a little bit more on that. And that's the fact that we are Black people spread across the world, and we all have different experiences. But that doesn't mean or make a Black person anywhere else in the world less Black or less African, because you were born in Britain or you were born in America or you were born in Nigeria, wherever you are, wherever you are, whatever story you're telling that is unique to your experiences is your Black experience. So, in
Yes.
terms of telling our own stories, you're a Black person wherever you are, you're a Black person, whatever your experience or pedigree, or, or what you see on a day to day. That is your original Black story. And it doesn't make it less African. It doesn't make it less African for you to I mean, like beautiful story that Chukwudi just talked about now of what they're working on. That is resonant with people like him, people who have had experiences like he has. So we should not be under the impression that a true African story has to be made in Nigeria or has to include people wearing Ankara or has to, include all these things that we see as deeply ancestral African, because
Mm.
we are people that have gone through several journeys and we have different journeys and we have different experiences. So, how about us, anywhere we are in the world, whatever the experience is, tell that authentic story? What's the experience of a Black person living in a very racist neighborhood in America? What's the story of a Black person, living in a rich neighborhood somewhere in Britain or in Paris or wherever? For me, those are, you know, what we should be looking at. Where am I? What's my story? What's the story of the people surrounding me? What is my origin? What brought me here? How did I get here? Am I in Nigeria? What's the situation in Nigeria? What is true to this story that I'm trying to tell? That is where I feel like we should begin. And that also ties to what Jimmy talked about earlier about the connection. How do we make that connection? How do we connect? I've sort of noticed, here and there sometimes where there's some sort of a looking down of Black people that are based in Africa or work in Africa or live in Africa. And you tend to want to maybe undermine the experience of a Black person and, that was born in America or grew up in America or migrated or whatever. My message is everybody's authentically Black and your experience is authentic. So whatever
I
story,
love
yeah,
that.
whatever story you're
I
telling
love that.
has to be
Yeah.
authentic to your Black experience.
Yeah.
African Americans here can there's sometimes there's a slight disconnect when you're talking to, for instance, someone like me who was born in Nigeria and grew up in Nigeria and I come here once in a while or I'm here to see my parents or things like that. Our stories are different. And
Yeah.
you might want to say when, there's a Black person talking about the Black movement and, and everything. And some of us are like, come on, you're being too hard. It's not that bad. But our experiences are different. So I cannot
Oh,
judge you,
wow.
you know, yeah, I cannot do based your African American experience is different from my African experience. Even if the world has become a smaller village now and we can connect via the
Yes.
internet, we can connect and fly to each other, we still have those
Yeah.
unique experiences. And that's what I, as an African in Africa, I want to learn about your experience here in America. I want to learn about your experience in London. I want to learn about the Black experience everywhere. And that is what connects us as, a global people. That's what I feel, that we should work towards, and that would make us richer. And the
I
whole
love
essence
that.
of this connection work.
I love that. So something you said that resonated that I think I want to pick at a little bit. And Jimmy, I'll have you answer this. You said that there's this notion that people from this side look down on Africans in Africa, and how how they're proceeding with whatever they're doing. And I wonder, where does this come from, this notion that we're thinking that one another looks down on us? Because African Americans will also say Africans look at us like we've lost our way, we don't have our culture, we've lost our traditions and stuff like that. Jimmy, if you could speak to that, because I think this is also key in the content we produce. And what you said, Tope, is we have to start with our own experiences. So if you can share, because you've been all over the world, Jimmy, so you have a lot to say about this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the roots of that is very clear, and I think we all know it. The roots of that is slavery, and
Yeah.
we all want to detach ourselves from slavery, and we're still paying the price of slavery. The reason why people look down at Africans in Africa, it's because of first slavery, and second the economic status of the continent. That's what it
Yes.
is. Now, we as a group of people have to understand our worth, and
Yes.
for most of the African Americans here, I think they just have to do a deeper effort to reach back and try to understand what is Africa, maybe take a trip to Africa, see for yourself and experience Africa a little bit, and then you can come back potentially slightly changed. And but what I will encourage is really collaboration. I mean, when we speak about
Yes.
projects, uh,
Yes.
we it's difficult. I mean, we're full of stories. We're full of scripts, great scripts that potentially tell you all kind of stories. But we know that those scripts are not going to get made because there is a formula within Hollywood that you have to respect. And if you don't have the
Mm.
right people attached to your project, you're not going to have the money. You're not going to have distribution. So yeah,
So how
those
do we
are
do
that's
that
that's
amongst
that's a
ourselves?
reality. I think
Yes,
I
but
think it's a slow
how do we do it
process.
amongst ourselves?
It it's a
Sorry.
slow process. It has to be a collaboration. Maybe some of the people who have a bit more power here, collaborating with some of the people from Africa, bringing them in slowly, inviting them,
How?
because they're
How?
very capable as well. Well, that's what I'm saying. Reaching out, in meeting, and whether it's a young talent from Africa, get him to be in a movie that is shot by professionals, Black Americans, and that is well received within the system. And slowly, people here will recognize that talent, and then that talent can bring another one, and vice versa. You have
Okay.
excellent directors over there as well that could potentially come here and do an episode of a TV show. Give those
Yes.
people the chance. I think it's a question of collaborating with each other, and also when it comes to the streamers, I would probably ask to some of those guys to respect the African content as well. You know,
Mm.
uh, pay give the content the right money so they can go
Yes.
back and do another project. Because when you have
Yes.
a company like Netflix giving millions to some of the projects here and then giving
Yes.
pennies to the projects in Africa, that's not right. So we have to
Yes.
change a lot of those little things before we see true progress. But I still believe that there is progress because things are moving forward. There is no doubt about that.
I definitely agree. I love what you said, and Mamoudou, I'm going to put this to you because it's true. Here we are. We have the talent. We have the
Right.
ingenuity. We have the stories. Diaspora, like 1.3 billion people.
Yeah,
We
Yeah.
yeah.
have vast capacity of many stories, right?
Yes.
Would you say that money, access, and education are the three things that hinder us or help us? And if so, why? And what do we need to do?
Whew, that's a doozy of a question.
Sorry, but
Yeah.
we have to get deep because all the surface
Hey,
conversation is great, but let's really break it down and break those layers. Because look, by the end of this industry panels, I want us to wake up Hollywood and see ways that they can really contribute to the story of the diaspora and emerging market. We are an emerging market, and so let's take advantage of the opportunities that doors are opening up for us, and let's walk in there and tell them what we want and what we need.
I absolutely agree. To answer your question, the thing that I think that is, it's. I've been talking with my friend. There's this wonderful actor I also went to school with. His name is Yahya Abdul Mateen II. Love him, love him, love him. Just one of my closest friends, great guy. And we've been talking a lot. We've been talking since we graduated about how we're going to work together. And lately, I brought a project over to him, and we've just been talking about it generally. And we've been talking about creating we've been using the word a tribe,
Mm.
like a tribe of people, like-minded people, like-hearted people, and people with the same similar goals. Um, and the way you can make a movie nowadays, you can make a movie for very little money. Um,
Yeah.
it's really about the people that you have around you, and yeah, the education has to be there, in order to make the movie, the kind of movie that you'd hope to make. But I mean, you could see Tangerine. That movie was shot on an iPhone. You know what I mean? And so I think it's really about surrounding yourself. It kind of what Jimmy Jean was saying, finding the people that you have a particular kind of access, or friends of yours, and just really collaborating, and sometimes just taking the time from like XYZ project, and like, no, I'm going to create something with these people that we want to build something that's a little bit bigger than us,
Mm.
and really making it happen. And sometimes that's a tough choice to make, especially as a young artist. But you just sometimes just have to, like, I just got to take this time and see this through, and really building that tribe. I think that's a very important thing. A really strong coalition. I
Mm.
think that's above everything. But of course, the education has to be there. But honestly, you can make a movie for very little money.
I like what you said, building a tribe, a coalition.
Mhm.
Manpower outweighs money sometimes.
Absolutely.
Resources don't always have to be cash, it can be gifting your talent to a project you really
Mhm.
believe. I
Exactly.
think it's time for us to step away from this mentality of get money, get money, get money, get money,
Yep.
and be more about collaboration, like Jimmy said, working together from one side to the other. Chukwudi, you have a production company, so it's about finding another Black production company here or in the continent, and coming
Mhm.
together and sharing your talent, sharing your gift. You've been on this side of the world, you've learned a lot of things. What can you lend to them on that side of the world? They have some stories that you don't
Mhm.
know of. How can you channel do you see what I'm saying? That whole bridge, that
Hmm.
whole, breaking down that gap. Where do you see yourself in this process, and how do you feel about, the steps of collaboration being like potent and actual and real?
They have to be potent, as you say. For instance, what comes with the package of working with our production company is a bunch of homegrown Nigerian writers in the writers' room. That's another thing, the
Oh,
writers' room.
love that.
We actually represent, we sort of run a writers agency where we farm them out. That's, I don't know if that's the right, well, yeah, I guess technically. So they're writing. We have writers that have come from Nigeria that we are now writing for Netflix or Canal Plus or whatever.
Amazing.
um, because it's really important to understand grassroots. What by the time we get to saying Netflix or Amazon, can you give us 100 million for this crazy series? It's too late because they're like, well, what? You know, if we're at the point
Right.
where, oh, this writer who you know wrote this show you really loved, whatever, and they've developed this show. Oh, that show, we love that show. It's a different conversation. So I think
Yes.
it's about being very clever and making sure you do everything step by step. And to a point that Jimmy made, there is this thing about the separation. The oldest way of keeping a revolution down is divide and conquer. That's the
Correct.
standard thing. We cannot
Yes.
have them all working together. Sadly, this has been taken up as a call by, other black people. Like, this actor is not African American, so they shouldn't play this role. You know,
Oh
I
my
did the
gosh.
wonderful underground. I did the wonderful Underground Railroad with Tucson Bed. I mean, Jesus, Barry Jenkins, an African American director, the leader in storytelling, chose her, and yet there's a discussion about that. I'm attached to play James Baldwin. God knows what's gonna come out that I'm doing James Baldwin and not Africa. But are you telling me, as someone
Good
who grew up
stuff.
in Lagos, lived
Yes.
in Ethiopia, I lived in Lesotho next door to South Africa soon after apartheid, are you telling me I can't bring a reference point to that kind of storytelling? Do you think racism doesn't exist in England? Come on. They perfected it before it was even started here. So, and then how far do we go? Should Denzel not have
Yes.
played Biko? Should
Yes.
Morgan Freeman not have played Nelson
Not a
Mandela?
great person.
So
Yes.
we've got to, there's a two-pronged attack. One is about
Yeah.
starting from the scratch to build
Yeah.
stuff. And the next prong attack is make sure that we're not getting in each other's way. That
Well,
actually every face that goes up there and does it with this coloring, with this melanin,
it's it.
win.
It's it. We're just
Yeah,
black.
yeah,
We're black. We're black. We're
yeah,
black. I'm so happy
yeah.
you brought that up because I was going to bring it up, but then I was like, okay, we're going to stay real positive, and just talk about really wonderful, fluffy things. But guess what? This is real life, right? And so here you
Yeah.
go. You've opened the can of worms. So let's really dig deep and talk about this. The thing is, every single one of you here on this panel has African roots generated from either first generation or was born there, or Jimmy, your African roots, you're African to Haiti and all of this stuff. You have all come, or maybe born, Mamoudou, I don't know if you were born here or whatever.
I
I'm
was
not
born
doing
in
the
Mauritania.
okay. Say
Yeah.
that again. Where were you born?
Mauritania.
Got it. Okay. You see what I mean? We're diverse. We're spread all over the world. How do you feel when you're told that your black isn't black enough because you're not a Hollywood staple,
Mm.
right? And so, how do you navigate that conversation? Because at the end of the day, if you're an actor, you should be able to channel and reference whatever character you are. I mean, the Joker doesn't live as the Joker, right? So, what's can you share with me, because there's native African American born here, and I really, for one, would love to dispel this notion of you're not good enough to be me. How about we're all us? So who is the best man to channel that energy for the film or the show? I'll
I
go
think
to
you
you.
just answered the question. You just answered the question.
Did I answer my
I
own
couldn't put
question?
it better myself.
See, because I was going to go to
Better
Tope
myself.
because Tope, you're from Nigeria. Do you even see this as a conversation? Do you see the conversations about this? Is this something even on your radar?
Yes and no. So it affects me differently as a director working in Nigeria.
Okay.
But I do understand it. I do
Okay.
understand that from Chukwudi's point of view.
Okay.
And it affects me and us in the sense, in another sense, actually. So we've had Nigerian named characters in
Uh huh.
Hollywood movies, and mostly African American actors have been cast to play the roles. So we've also seen what we jokingly call African in Nigeria. Like there's a particular accent that is really not us. That
Is
is
more East
being
African.
that
Yes,
has exactly,
yes,
Chickadee, you know what I'm
It's
talking
yes,
it's
about.
so
That has
East
been
African. It's
created.
like, yeah.
yes,
Yeah, it's really East
yes,
African. And then you have
yes,
characters with Nigerian names, and then they speak like, they're from East Africa or they're from, somewhere else.
yes,
And it's a little bit
yes.
confusing. But what is more confusing for me now is we have now had some actors who have crossed over from Nigeria, from West Africa, into Hollywood and,
Yeah.
have been able to get a role or two here and there. And what I've found, I know someone personally who I would not mention his name. He got cast in a project. He already had the authentic Nigerian accent. He wasn't
Okay.
affected by anything.
Yeah.
And the role he was playing was Nigerian, named Nigerian, supposed to be,
Okay.
richly Nigerian. He was asked to speak the African accent. And
What
he was
African?
like, but I don't I think Chukudi understands what I'm talking about. It's the
Yeah,
same
yeah. I
one
think
who's
Mamoudou
yeah,
understand.
it's not
Mamoudou is
it's
doing. He knows it too.
yeah.
There's we
What do
all.
you have to say
Sarah.
Mamoudou,
about
Wow.
Mamoudou
this?
is doing that accent. There
Sarah.
is a certain yeah. Jimmy probably knows what we're
Yeah.
Mama,
talking
you're
about
shaking
too.
your
So
head. What
Jimmy
is
knows
this
it as well.
accent?
I
Well,
don't I don't know how I can explain it to you. Maybe Jimmy can help.
It's
Why
just
are you hiding,
stereotype,
Mama?
I mean, there's a
It's
certain way that
exactly
they look at
Okay.
at Africans, and that's all they wanna hear. And it doesn't
Okay.
matter if it's fake or not, that's all they wanna hear. But now it's up to each of
that is
us,
it.
including your friend, the actor, to tell them no, that is, he has to fight against that.
yeah.
Well, he
We have
did.
to push back.
He
Yeah,
did, but
yeah.
he
And what
didn't
So,
win.
happened?
So he was
slowly we
told, well, you're going to have to either say it how we want it or we get someone else to play the role. This is how we want you to sound. And that to me
Oh
was all
wow.
shades of messed up. Like, this is the authentic actor. This is the authentic Nigerian character you're looking for. And you're asking him to say it
yeah,
some other way. So this
Wow.
is how it affects
yeah.
me. Yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, what exactly is going on here? Now you have this character, now you have someone who is from there, now you have someone who's grown up there who can give you what it is. But you insist, this is how I see you, and this is how I want you to remain in this box.
Wow.
Otherwise, you can't be a part of this. So this is how it affects me as a Nigerian director or storyteller. What are
Wow.
we doing now about this? Do we have a strong enough voice, like Jimmy
Mm,
says, for me to say, no, I'm not going to say it how you want me to say it. I'm going to say it how I know is correct and authentically African or Nigerian or from wherever it is.
wow. That is a powerful story to share. So do you see how the system has designed us to fail in connectivity, in
Yep.
finding our voices and having strength in that voice. But I still have hope. I don't always feel like, yes, there's a system. Yes, certain people want us to do certain things. But the only way to fight back, would you say? Because I was just gonna say, like Woman King and the the whole thing with the woman warriors. These seem to be the stories that Hollywood wants to put big money towards and you know support portrayals of strong black women, right? So my question is this the only stories they want to support, because there's quite a few of them coming out? And why do you think that they're making such a huge commitment to only these kind of stories? So then will it make us seem like it's just a trend, or
Well,
are they going to be open to real vast other stories that we have? Who wants to
I
answer
would
that?
I would say
it's
that it's somewhat, sorry, let me just chip in quickly. It's somewhat political, as you've mentioned and identified,
Okay.
and to me it's somewhat pandering at the same time.
Mm,
It's trying to be politically correct, like, okay, this is what's going on in
mm,
the world now, the Me Too movement. We're trying to do female empowerment, so this is a way to be correct and say we're doing the right thing. Like you said, we have so many stories, we have so many angles, we have so many things we could be saying, and trying to say with our stories. That's not to say this is not a great thing to tell stories about women in strong positions or in a strong light, but there's so many more conversations we need to have. And if we're able to get away from the point of being politically correct to just being correct, simple, and capture the entire Black experience and existence, that would be the way to go.
I
I
mean, the
love that.
reality is the black man scares people, you know. So
Mm,
can you imagine a powerful black man can be scary for many? So we do
mm.
have a lot of extremely powerful black men stories that we could tell from Africa, but that's giving a little bit too much power to those black men, I think,
What's so
within Hollywood
scary
right
about
now. So
Jimmy?
well,
What's so
we know how,
scary about
what you know the portrait of the black man in America. You know how it's been historically proven that we have to step on them just so we can break the entire family. So I think there's a little bit of that as well, where they don't want to put too much attention to some of those black leaders, black men leaders, because yeah, there's definitely a lot of power in that.
Mamoudou? I want to hear your voice. You have worked with Prentice Penny, who was also executive producer of the groundbreaking HBO
Yeah,
show Insecure.
yeah,
He has found his voice. You have collaborated with him.
mhm,
Insecure has been a cultural movement, honestly,
yeah,
and is an iconic show that we will be talking about years from now to our kids. And I want to understand, the design is there. We understand divide and conquer is the motto. So now, how do we break that mold in terms of, you collaborate, we've talked about.
yeah,
How do we collaborate? We get a tribe, you
yeah,
mentioned, right?
hmm
We get a tribe and we start creating those stories irrespective of what the big Hollywood scene wants to do.
hmm
I think that even though we have the gifts and talents of each other, money is still needed. How can Black companies come together like NAACP, starting these funds, right? To help us be able to tell the authentic stories we want to tell and not the standard stories Hollywood wants to tell. What is the method of bringing us together in terms of investment capital to make sure that we find a one stop shop or several to tell the stories we want to tell?
Well, yeah, I think this has already been said, but it does go into let's say an organization like the NAACP wants to collaborate with an entertainment conglomerate, let's say like BET, just to throw an example out there. And it's just a matter of people. I think it's staying the course and making a commitment, making a real commitment, because the people are there to watch. I like with Uncorked, with Black Box. I did this movie with this remarkable director, Emmanuel Sekou Jr. Is a great director. I'm certainly by no stretch of the imagination a household name, but we had talent attached like Felicia Rashad, Niecy Nash, Courtney B. Vance, that brought their talents to the movie, that made these movies happen, and brought eyes to the project in great numbers. So I think the same thing kind of goes for, like, let's say an organization like the NAACP and BET, and making a partnership. Again, I'm using these two organizations as examples.
Yeah.
Um, and just really committing to like, hey, we're going to do XYZ with these young emerging filmmakers and this young emerging talent, and we're going to promote it, because promotion, that's the part. You don't need money to really make a movie, but you need a lot of
It's
money
the
to promote.
promotion. Yes, yes.
And having people like, I think that's so cool that you got that artist, Chukwudi. Am I pronouncing your name correctly, sir? I'm so sorry.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. I
Correct.
think that's
Yeah.
so wonderful that you have that artist collaborating
Burna
with you, because
Boy.
that's going to expand the
Burna
yeah,
Boy.
Burna
Yeah.
Boy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to
Burna Boy.
expand the access, and like there's going to be so many more eyes as a result. Like, oh, I know that guy. Let's see, Jay-Z's producing this. Oh, okay, that's so cool. LeBron James has
Yeah.
this company. He's producing movies now. Oh, wow. I think that access and their like star power, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
brings
Yeah.
eyes to independent projects in a way that that
Yeah.
that you can't just manufacture.
As an actor, your biggest fear is like when you do more than one take, is that the take you don't like is the one they'll use, right? So the best thing you can do as an actor is make sure that every take you give, as much as you can, is one you would be proud of. Does that mean? Because you never know the one they're going to take. And I think that
Yeah.
comes down to sort of what Mamoudou is talking about is, the idea that this can be done independently of the established hierarchy is I think wishful thinking. I think there is an advantage, there's a wonderful thing that could happen to turn the money and power of the HBOs and the Netflix and whatever towards telling these stories. Now the question is, what are the stories that we give to them? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I think it's wonderful to do Warrior Queen. I think, but we know those stories. We've seen them. When we think of the great African stories, that's what we give. What if we give them? I'll come back to this point of for instance, when I'm thinking of some of the stories that I want to tell, like I want about Ira Aldridge. Okay, African American Ira Aldridge, Africa, But the form we're telling it is, let's not do the standard biopic of rags to riches.
Yeah.
Let's tell an interesting version of this guy. One of the things we're doing is like telling two stories, 1833 and 2022. Who is the modern Ira Aldridge now?
No.
It's the kind of stories we give. If we bombard them with only the takes we want, those are only the stories that will be eventually told. When we're talking about Baldwin, again, we're not talking about, when I'm saying we're attached to Baldwin, why we want to do Baldwin is that amazing group, Uma Chroma, I don't know if you heard of them, Bradford Young, Terrence Nance, Jen and Kim, they're all doing it. They've done the book. So we're giving them a version of Baldwin that isn't rags to riches, and then he died old and tired and with the black story of whatever somewhere. No, this guy had a great time in Paris.
Yeah.
Harry Belafonte.
Yes.
Yes, he did.
Marlon Brando.
Josephine
They all
Baker,
came.
yeah.
Josephine Baker, they all came.
Yeah.
Let's look. Just like Baldwin said, no, I don't believe in the idea of separate states. No, we didn't ask to be here, but we're here, and we're going to do it right. You're going to keep us.
Yes.
Let's do that with the storytelling. It's not like this money hasn't come out of the backs of some of our talents anyway.
Yes.
So rather than this idea of like we have to do it ourselves, no, we will do it ourselves also. But the money's there with Amazon. If you can give, so why don't we give them? So when they're looking through their Africa slate, if they're going to choose one of them, it's going to be one of the ones we want to tell. So we've got to make sure that every take we give is worth telling. That's my take on it,
That's powerful.
5 languages.
Jimmy, 5 languages.
Speaks 5 languages.
France,
Do you know what I mean?
It's
what I'm saying is
just
that the story. Yeah, go on. Sorry, Jimmy.
There's a lot.
No, I was gonna say it's just the struggle. It's just the struggle of a black man trying to exist. To be honest with you, I end up speaking those languages because I just had to struggle. I just had to move from country to country to try to understand who I was, try to have a place, to try to exist, from Creole, from Haiti to French, in France to Spanish in Spain to Italian in Italy, and of course English in South Africa, England, and all those places. It was because I was like many other black men, looking for something better, and also looking for a little bit of respect at the end of the day as
Mhm.
well, you know. So
Mhm.
it's yeah, it sounds glamorous to, you know, to say that you do speak all those languages, but people don't have any idea on the work that that it took, you know, to actually get there, and all the problems that you had to to face, and often, especially as a black man or as a Haitian trying to navigate the world, it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. You know what I mean? And you're being thrown in situations where you're being searched for no reason, you know, being handcuffed for no reason, just because you're black in Germany, just because you're black in France, just because you're black in England or black in Italy. Those stories are not told, but they exist, and they're and and every day, you know, they exist. So yes, at the end of the day, for me, I'm very happy because, you know, as far as an experience, it has been very rich. Yes, it allows me to speak all those languages. Yes, it allows me to work in all those places now as an actor. But at the same time, I know I would have preferred to do that because I wanted to, not because I was forced to, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think it's a normal path for any black man, black kid, you know, to trying to be.
I can
Well,
imagine how many other black people across the world have a story like Jimmy's.
Mhm.
And that is
yes.
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely authentic. You know, it doesn't have to be the queen fighting a war somewhere. These are authentic life
yeah,
Exactly.
stories. This is the struggle of a black man trying to make a life for himself
completely.
Yes.
and all that
I
you
mean,
have
even
to do that.
yeah, even
Yeah.
one small example, and that one is something that I actually speak up about it as well. As a young kid in Paris, because I grew up in Paris, and I think I was probably 13 and 14, and I was supposed to go to England from Paris to London with my classmates. And it's at the time when they discovered AIDS. It's at the times
Mm.
when they said that AIDS came from Haiti. So out of all those kids that were supposed to travel, they took me aside and they said that you're gonna have to do an AIDS test before you travel with us. So,
Wow.
you know, as I'm like, okay, what does it mean? Am I really sick? So I had to go to the doctor to actually do it, and I was petrified. You know, I mean, I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that it wasn't good. So those kind of mini examples sort of, you know, for me, they made me, because otherwise I wouldn't be here, but they can easily break you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's traumatizing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whew.
Mm.
Wow.
But anyway, let's pick up.
You
Let's
remember,
let's
you
change the
remember in
mood
the,
here.
let's think, but you know, remember in the sort of like 80s and 70s and 80s when television was trying to open things up, there were two kinds of people of color. There were the noble beyond noble, and then there were the criminals. And actually, the
Yeah,
really interesting stuff is right there in the middle. You know,
Yeah.
is
yeah.
the
Right.
everyday, is the ambiguity, it's the blurred lines,
Mm-hmm.
is the stories
Yeah.
that don't matter. Archive 81, I mean, that could have been a white guy playing it. Does that make sense?
Dan
I've
Turner.
actually
Yeah.
made my whole career about, I've actually focused a lot, if I'm going to be honest with my background and stuff, of when given a choice of Raisin in the Sun or Ibsen, not because Ibsen's better than Raisin in the Sun, but I'll do the Ibsen. Why? Because I wasn't supposed to play that. And that's
Yes.
Mm.
sort of the roles that have, that I feel, if we're trying to talk as individuals, what is it? If someone were to shine a light on what you've been doing and ask you, what has your path been, in as much as you're aware of it, is that I've always been drawn to the roles that people kept saying you shouldn't play that, right? And you
Yeah.
go,
Yeah.
okay, that's exactly why did everyone assume I loved playing Othello. Othello was amazing. It's the last play I did. It was a great role. But everyone assumed from the age I was 25 that I wanted to play
Yep.
Othello. Actually, I
Yep.
wanted to play Hamlet. And that's the one
Mm.
I went after. That's the one I actually chased. And I did, you know what I mean? Othello I did, but everyone assumed, of course, you're going to play Othello. No, actually, I want to do Hamlet. Now, I'm not saying that's the only way to do it. Everyone has their path. But I think it's very important that we don't set the limits to ourselves also,
Yes.
because
Yes.
someone has been, Jimmy's example of being told that AIDS came from Haiti, or AIDS came from Africa, or AIDS came from, you know what I mean? I mean, there's a psychological, long-lasting thing about that, you know?
Oh,
And so
absolutely.
just because the famous line in acting is, just because another character says it about you doesn't mean it has to be true. And I think that
Uh-huh.
bodes the same in life, very much so, you know?
I
You
just I
know,
just
so
gotta.
go
Oh, I'm
ahead.
so
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Well,
No, go ahead.
I just love what you just said so much. I just had to piggyback again off of that, because I feel the exact same way, man. I've made
Hmm.
choices distinctly, not necessarily. It's just because I felt the same way when I was like, oh, this is the tough black man model, or like the criminal, or XYZ. There were
Yeah,
very few shades of gradation
great.
in black experience. And I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
this is crazy. And for me, like, a personal mission of mine has been like just finding out stories with real vulnerability and a kind of tenderness, that because that those other kind of exhibitions felt often like the actor was forced to find a way to infuse humanity to it, whereas like
yeah.
it needs to be in the story, in the material. So I mean, by the way, I heard your Hamlet was awesome. It was the talk of the
Thank,
town when I was in
thank
New
you
York.
so,
So I'm sorry I
thank you
missed it.
so much.
Yeah, hopefully we do it
No,
again. Uh,
that's this is amazing. This is great conversation. I love the fact that we've had the opportunity to really dig deep and kind of peel back some of these layers um, as a people. And when I say a people, I mean African people. Geographically, wherever you were born, you ended up, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we are African. And if we can just accept that one fact and see ourselves as a global community, and one community at that, not a divided,
yeah.
pit against each other, we have the opportunity and we have the choice to work together and be together and come together as one voice. So, in saying all these things and how we've developed this discussion, I wanted to kind of give an opportunity for last words, and of course, I'll go to the Queen first. If there was always the Queen. If there was one legacy you, Queen Tope, want to leave for the entertainment industry to thrive beyond what we see now, and you, right? What would it be? To thrive beyond what we see now, and also beyond you as a person, one person in this global village, what would it be?
I'm going to still write from what you just said, and that is for every black person in the world to remember that we are all African and that we have separate experiences across the world, and we should come together in the power of everything that we are all experiencing in different places, and remember that we are still one people, and use that power to hold ourselves together as one people across the world.
I love that. Thank you. Now I'll go to Jimajine, Jimajane Louise.
I'll just say, let's work together, because I believe that the future of cinema could be in Africa.
On the back of having grown up with my own role models there, I will just say what my dad often says: if you aim for the stars, you might land on a tree. You're still higher than everything else.
As far as a lasting impact, I think what I've been hearing is, and I could only wholeheartedly agree. Especially coming up, I've even even somewhat recently, that yeah, there is some level of a scarcity mentality or competitiveness that need not be there. I think the unity and like really helping someone and helping each other, and again creating that tribe, creating that coalition, I think that is the way to move forward as a people. I think that's the only way. Um, I love seeing actors and producers, directors help each other with no hope for a recompense of any kind outside of I want to help my friend or like I want to help my brother. You know, I think that for me is the most important thing. So that and it moves me greatly when I see it and contribute to it. So
For me, my wish and my hope is exactly what I'm doing with Heirs of Africa. Um, 5 years ago, I started the Diaspora Dialogues, these conversations that we're having, just trying to figure out what was the division about and how we could just break it down and start beginning with a word to each other. Like you said, Chukwudi, my main thing I just heard God say, in the beginning was the word. And in that word lies God. If we don't speak to each other, if we don't come together and break down what divides us, we will never, ever trust each other enough to work with each other, to collaborate with each other, and to just enhance this greater process of being Black in the world. And so the conversations were something like this, where we start off talking about one thing and then it leads to other layers and we start delving deeper. But all in all, these are stories we have to tell ourselves. And like Chukwudi says, we don't have to do anything all by ourselves. We have a whole group of
Networks.
people, billions, right? Jimmy said
Yeah.
billions of people. It's not exclusive of anyone else, it's just inclusive of ourselves. We have the opportunity right now. We've broken down a lot of barriers. Let us not sit back and waste this time that we have. We're in a sweet spot. Hollywood is seeing us. We are seeing ourselves. The global conversations of Black people all over the world has opened up. We are no longer seeing ourselves as the monolithic box that we've been put in. So we need to step in there and tell those vast array of stories. Africa holds the biggest wealth, not only in money, in everything that's great, but our culture, our traditions, our various stories, like you said, from Haiti to Paris to Spain, Chukwudi from Nigeria, from UK, America, Mauritania. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. We're a vast group of people. We have lots of stories. My wish and hope is for each one of us to utilize our gifts and talents to rewater the soil of our Africa. And may we continue to create content that speaks volumes on how we should be perceived in the world. We're more than just a space, we're a people, we are great, we are wealthy in all the ways that anyone can think of. And it's time for us to take control and take our narratives and display our stories, one story at a time. And once again, I am just so proud and humbled to have been a part of this. Let's use this as our personal intentions to carry the accountability of expanding and elevating our continent. We are smart, intelligent, innovative creators, and traditions are yet to be seen on the world stage. So let's be one of those people. Let's be all of those people creating those stories. This has been a wonderful conversation. This is the legacy we would like to leave for all those listening, is that unity is power and everything. We are Black, Black, Black all over the world. The end. African. If we can just say we're African and not qualify African American, Afro British, Afro this, we're just African. That by itself will start a renaissance that we as a people now sitting here talking to each other can be the spark of. So thank you so much to all of you.
Thank
Tope,
you.
thank you. Jimmy,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Mamoudou, thank you. Chikwudi, thank you so much. And beyond anything, I
Thank
want
you.
to say thank you to NAACP for always pioneering and giving us the opportunity and the space to have these kind of conversations so that we can empower and lift up our community, and also to make sure that we see ourselves as one unit and one forward moving unit. So I want to leave us with this positive note. Thank you so much. Let the African Renaissance begin.
Thank
To
you.
you.
What an incredible conversation. Wow, such an honor. Thank you for drawing out the best.